Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tales by Amir. If you love emotional, mysterious, and thought-provoking stories that keep you hooked until the very end, then you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss one of our upcoming tales. Now, let's begin today's story. Before going to bed, I overheard a strange conversation between my daughter-in-law and my son. It was a cold night in late October, and the wind outside was whispering through the cracks of the old house. I had just finished washing the dishes and was getting ready to go to bed when I heard voices coming from my son's room down the hall. Normally, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. After all, married couples talk before sleeping, it's natural. But something in the tone of their voices made me pause. There was tension, a low, urgent kind of whispering. My daughter-in-law, Aisha, spoke first. Her voice was trembling, almost afraid. "I can't do this anymore, Amir. It's wrong." My son, Samir, sounded frustrated. "We don't have a choice, Aisha. You know that." I froze in place, my hand still holding onto the edge of the wall. What could they possibly be talking about? What was it that they had no choice in doing? My heart began to beat faster as I leaned closer, careful not to make any noise. Aisha continued, "But she's your mother, Samir. How can we hide this from her?" My breath caught in my throat. Me? What could they be hiding from me? Samir sighed heavily. "If she finds out now, it'll destroy her. You know how fragile she's been since Dad passed away. My late husband, Rahim, had died 3 years ago, and yes, I hadn't been the same since. He was my whole world. Samir had been my rock through that dark period, always comforting me, always by my side. And Aisha, she was kind, gentle, and always respectful. I had loved her like my own daughter. But now, hearing them whispering about keeping something from me, it felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I couldn't make out much after that, just murmurs, and then silence. I tiptoed back to my room, my mind racing. What were they hiding? Why did they think I couldn't handle it? That night, I barely slept. Every possible scenario ran through my mind. Were they planning to move away? Were they in financial trouble? Or worse, was it something to do with my husband's death? The next morning, I acted normal. I made breakfast, smiled, and greeted them both as if nothing had happened. But inside, I was breaking apart. I watched them closely. Samir looked tired, distracted. Aisha barely met my eyes. While we were eating, Aisha suddenly said, "Ami, I was thinking of going to the city tomorrow. Just for a few days. My cousin is unwell." That was strange. She never traveled alone. Samir immediately added, "Yes, I told her she should go. I'll manage things here." Something about that exchange didn't sit right with me. It felt rehearsed. I smiled politely and said, "Of course, Beta. You should go. Family comes first." But in my heart, suspicion grew like a shadow. Later that day, I went to the market to clear my head. As I was passing the old post office, I saw Samir on the other side of the street. He wasn't supposed to be there. He had said he was working from home. He was talking to a man I didn't recognize, and they seemed serious. When the man handed him a small envelope, Samir quickly put it in his jacket pocket. I pretended not to notice, but my heart was pounding. That night, I couldn't resist. I waited until Samir went to the washroom, and I went through his jacket. My hands were shaking. I found the envelope. It was sealed, but the corner had torn slightly. Inside, I saw a piece of paper with a number written on it, and below it, the words, "Final installment, do not delay." Final installment of what? A loan. Something illegal. When Samir returned, I quickly stepped away and pretended to be folding laundry. My mind was spinning. The next morning, Aisha left for her cousin's place, or so she said. I wanted to believe her, but my gut told me something was off. Over the next few days, Samir became distant. He was always on the phone, whispering. At night, I'd hear him pacing in the living room. Once, I came out for water and saw him standing near the window, talking to someone in hushed tones. When he noticed me, he hung up immediately and forced a smile. "Can't sleep, Ami?" he asked. I nodded. "And you? You seem troubled." He laughed it off. "Just work stuff, Ami. You know how it is." But I knew it wasn't just work. Then, on the fourth night, I heard something again. A familiar voice. Aisha's voice. But she wasn't supposed to be back yet. I got out of bed quietly and walked toward the living room. The lights were dim. Samir and Aisha were standing close together, speaking in low tones. She agreed, Aisha said. But we need to do it soon. If anyone finds out, it'll be too late. Samir nodded. I know. I'll talk to her tomorrow. Who was she? Were they talking about me again? I pressed my ear against the doorframe, careful not to creak the old wood. Aisha continued, Samir, I'm scared. What if something goes wrong? He took her hand. Nothing will go wrong. It's for her own good. My blood ran cold. For my own good. I stepped back quietly, heart hammering. Whatever they were planning, it involved me. The next morning, Samir was unusually affectionate. He made me breakfast, asked how I was feeling, even offered to take me to the park. That wasn't normal for a weekday. I smiled, trying to act calm, but inside, I was terrified. Every gesture, every look, they all felt like part of a bigger plan I didn't understand. Later that evening, I went into his room while he was out running errands. I needed answers. I searched through his drawers and found a file hidden under a pile of papers. When I opened it, my hands began to tremble. It was medical paperwork. My name was on it. Blood tests, reports, and a note from a doctor saying, approved for transplant procedure, subject to donor compatibility. Transplant. What transplant? My eyes darted through the pages. Then I saw it, Samir's name listed as the donor. My son was donating something. But what were they planning without telling me? Suddenly, the front door opened. I panicked, shoved the papers back into place, and ran to my room, pretending to read. A few minutes later, Samir knocked gently. Ami, can we talk? I swallowed hard. Of course, Beta. He sat down beside me, holding my hand. Ami, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. But please, promise me you won't panic. I forced a smile. What is it? He took a deep breath. It's about your health. You remember when you were having those dizzy spells last month? I got your tests done again. The doctor says your kidneys are failing. My heart stopped. What? That can't be true. I feel fine. He shook his head sadly. It's in the early stages, Ami. That's why you don't feel it yet. But the doctor said we need to act fast. I felt the room spin around me. I didn't know what to say. He continued, I didn't want to tell you until we had a solution. That's why Aisha and I were discussing it. I'm donating one of my kidneys to you. Tears filled my eyes instantly. All the fear, all the suspicion, all of it turned to guilt. I had been spying on them, thinking the worst, while they were planning to save my life. But why didn't you tell me sooner? I whispered. He smiled softly. Because I knew you'd refuse. You'd say you didn't want to be a burden. So I thought, maybe if everything was ready, you'd agree. I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. I hugged him tightly, crying into his shoulder. Oh, my son, I thought something terrible. I thought you were hiding something dark. He chuckled gently. We were hiding something, but only because we love you too much. When Aisha came in, I stood up and hugged her too. She was crying as well. Ami, I wanted to tell you so many times, but Samir said to wait. I was scared you'd be angry. That night, we sat together for hours. They explained everything, the doctor's diagnosis, the compatibility tests, the arrangements for surgery. They had already paid part of the hospital deposit, that was what the envelope was about. The final installment note I saw had been from the hospital's billing office. I felt a strange mix of relief, love, and shame. I had doubted them. I had let my imagination twist their kindness into fear. Over the next few weeks, I tried to accept what was happening. The thought of my son undergoing surgery for me terrified me, but he was determined. Ami, you gave me life, he said one night, now it's my turn to give it back. The operation was scheduled for the following month. Aisha took care of every detail, appointments, medicines, hospital forms. She was like an angel, handling everything with grace. When the day finally arrived, I was trembling with fear. Not for myself, but for Samir. Before they wheeled him into the operating room, I held his hand and whispered, "You are my pride, my everything." He smiled and said, "And you're my reason for everything." The surgery was long, over 6 hours. Aisha and I waited in the corridor, holding hands, praying. Every second felt like an eternity. When the doctor finally came out, he smiled. Both surgeries went well. They're going to be just fine. Tears streamed down our faces as we thanked him over and over again. When I woke up in my hospital bed later, I saw Samir lying in the bed next to mine, weak but smiling. We didn't need words. Our eyes said it all. In the days that followed, something changed inside me. I realized how easy it is for our minds to turn love into doubt when we let fear control us. I had overheard only fragments of the truth and built a story of my own, one filled with darkness and mistrust. But the real story was one of sacrifice and love. A week after we returned home, I sat on the veranda, watching the sunset. Aisha brought me tea and said softly, "Ami, you scared us that night when you overheard us. I could see it in your eyes the next morning." I smiled faintly. "I know, Beta. I should have trusted you both." She shook her head. "No, I understand. You've been through so much. Losing Abu, it changed everything." I nodded. "It did. But maybe it also made me realize how precious this family is. I almost lost my faith in the two of you, and in myself." That night, before going to bed, I said a silent prayer. Not of fear this time, but of gratitude. For my son's love, for my daughter-in-law's kindness, for second chances. Months passed. Life returned to normal. Samir recovered fully, and I felt stronger than ever. Sometimes, when I think back to that night, the whispers, the fear, the sleepless hours, I smile to myself. Because I realize now that even love can sound mysterious when we don't understand it. One evening, as we were all sitting together watching an old movie, Aisha laughed and said, "Ami, promise me next time you overhear us talking, you'll just come in and ask instead of imagining a crime scene in your head." We all burst into laughter. I said, "Deal, but only if you promise not to talk in riddles again." It became a running joke in our house. But deep down, it taught me a lesson I'll never forget. Sometimes, what we think is a dark secret might just be a story of love, quietly unfolding behind closed doors. And if you ever find yourself doubting the ones who love you most, remember, sometimes silence isn't hiding guilt. It's just protecting your heart from unnecessary pain. So that's the story of the night I overheard a strange conversation between my son and daughter-in-law, and how it changed everything I thought I knew about love and trust. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with someone who loves emotional tales, and subscribe to Tales by Amir for more stories that touch the heart and make you think. Good night, everyone. Until next time, keep your hearts open, and your minds gentle.